Welcome to Winning the Room. In this episode, we're here with Matthew Grounds, co-founder of Barrenjoey. This is a rare look into the world of finance culture, and we get to hear his insights. You won't hear this anywhere else. Action.
There you go.
Mate, I know you've been on the set of Seinfeld, so come on. This is nothing. Oh, it was Kirk? Even better.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was a donation for my 50th.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was fun.
Yeah, amazing. So let's stay in pop culture.
Yep.
When I say these names, I just want you to react
Yeah.
to these names.
Yeah.
So Gordon Gekko.
Great movie. Great movie.
Okay.
Awesome movie.
Patrick Bateman.
Don't have a reaction to Patrick Bateman, really. I mean,
Okay.
he's the Star Wars guy, right?
No.
Oh, right.
American Psycho.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry.
Investment banker.
No, I don't. No.
Clearly no reaction. Right.
No.
Bobby Axelrod, Billions.
You watched a bit of the start. I mean,
Point is, these are all, they're caricatures, right? Of bankers, of finance people.
yeah.
Why are they always portrayed like this? Not always, but why are they often portrayed quite dark, quite greedy,
Yeah.
quite negative?
Yeah, I mean, I think, unfortunately, that is the perception. And, there's clearly, those characters do exist in real life, without a doubt, right? And Wall Street is probably where you find most of that personality, to be honest. When I was at UBS and doing a global role, I found hiring people in the US, bankers in the US, was the hardest thing to do because they are so good at pitching themselves to a point whereby it's like, oh my God, this person's amazing. And there's sort of the front is extraordinary. Whereas, I think there's certainly a sense in Australia, most are sort of a bit more sort of, I don't know if the word's humble, but at least they don't think that they are the ants pants or whatever. But in the US, it's just like a culture. And I'm sure that's not just in banking. It's pretty, and that's just how they've been educated, I guess, and trained, so, some could say that means that they've got a natural advantage. Others could say that means there's a low self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
So-
that's not to say they're not all like that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and look, obviously, it's a generalization, it's a caricature.
Yeah.
It just fascinates me that almost always they are portrayed like that.
Yeah.
But it sounds like from your answer, that's a US portrayal in your mind, and maybe the Australian, if there was an Australian portrayal, you think it would be different, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's like all industries. There's pockets of, areas where there's people that, probably take themselves too seriously and, forget about the fact that, life's short. You want to have some fun and, you're not saving lives, you're just basically, advising companies or whatever. So it's not, you shouldn't take, whilst it's a serious job, like at the end of the day, you've got to get perspective.
This podcast's all about human connection.
Yeah.
So what is the feeling in those rooms?
Yeah.
Right? And maybe you can take us to one without putting the names and numbers in there.
Yeah.
But big moment, big money, high consequence, big people, egos and others in the room.
Yeah.
What does that really feel like? Because most people don't get into that room.
Yeah. There's all sorts of rooms that you get into, right? You come into a boardroom and that board is about to make a decision around something which might be selling the company. It might be doing a large capital raising. It might be a company that's in trouble. Obviously, when companies get into stress, all sorts of things happen. So you've got to manage that.
Well, I've got a specific question because that sounds like a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Pressure cooker room.
Yeah.
Lots of people with lots of, problems and agendas and stress.
Yeah.
Is that a room that you walk into and then you and your team are sort of talking and almost guiding the group? Or is it more, group discussion? Like, how do you actually navigate a situation like that?
Well, in that case, you've got to be ready to be able to answer all the questions. And so, and that's a function of both the management and our team that will be there. And so you're very close and tight with the company. You're not always in agreement, but you'll sort of know where the areas where you might have slightly different views, and that might be around risk, or it might be like what the market reaction to this is going to be. But you'll never really go into a board meeting where there's not alignment around, okay, this is the right thing for the company to do, this is the right way to go. But in an emergency situation, you really get to see companies that are well run, well managed, and well governed.
I'm always really keen to figure out, is this worth a meeting, or could this be a document or an email or some other form of communication? So just
Great
thinking
question.
about that, right?
Yeah.
If everybody's already aligned and everybody already knows all the information, what are we actually getting together for?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
do you think the answer is in your world? Because there are only so many variables, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Or is that limited thinking from me?
Yeah, no, I think there's often quite a lot of variables, actually. The team's just done an IPO of Virgin. This is a company that, potentially has been talked about floating for 2.5 years, but actually there's a moment where Qantas is trading at all-time highs, and the team sort of thought, actually, we could go now, let's go, and let's form a view and we'll do it. But then there's multiple engagement with investors and the management talking to all the investors, and again, asking lots of questions, and all those investors having different questions before they make a decision as to whether they invest. So, I'm not sure how that would happen via a document.
Yeah.
But everyone's going to want to have their own question answered,
Yeah. And I guess maybe the question, but also the feeling that happens off the question and the response and the surety of the response.
Yeah.
And maybe even body language of the responder.
All of that.
Do you think all that plays? And firstly, do you think it plays, and do you actually think about it and, I don't know, design it, or not necessarily?
Well, there are a lot of investors who, when they do a lot of work around body language and,
Really?
Yeah, around sort
Okay.
of, is a management team telling me the truth? I'm going to ask this question, but I'm really asking that question, but I'm asking that question because I want to directionally know the answer to that question over there. And that sort of framing it. There are very good investors who, because at the end of the day, nobody knows really what's going on inside a company other than the company. So if you're having a conversation with the CEO and the finance director, then you want their view. And sometimes people might say, well, the CEO is always bullish, right? And there are obviously, great CEOs who are not so bullish. And so then the market sort of says, well, okay, is this person doing what they consistently have done every time, and so therefore there's more in it, or so leaving room for risk management, if you like. So all of that, and people can say, well, quants can do some of that. I'm sure that's right, but you only have to look at the recent market reaction to know that the quants are getting it wrong. They're moving stocks quite significantly, and then they're reversing that 2 weeks later.
And when you think about the success you've had in business in these moments, how much of it is what you were just talking about, coming up with the ideas, designing the approach, versus in the room, expressing it, influencing? And I'm sure it's hard to percentage out, but I don't know, for someone coming through in banking, for someone just getting into business, should we be doubling down on the expertise or the presentation, or both?
Yeah. So
where's the difference in the alpha, do you think?
I'll tell you a bit of a joke. In my former job, when I was working for a global investment bank, they'd got to a stage where, in terms of the hiring, it was sort of like, because I used to like hiring people out of Perth or Queensland, because these were young individuals who'd made a decision to actually leave Perth, or leave Queensland, and actually come to Sydney or Melbourne. So that in itself is a commitment. It also says something about their personality.
That's clever.
And so, everyone's smart.
They're all in.
They're all smart, right? So if you're looking at them, how do I work out actually what's going on, inside them? And, you get people who design their CVs in terms of, I was the captain of this, or I set up this, or whatever, but you don't really know whether, like, everybody knows, like,
it's a first date. You know,
that,
we're
right.
all our best.
Exactly. All right. So you got to try and work out,
Yeah.
well, what, of course, the global organization takes over and, sort of says we know best. And so all of a sudden we start hiring like even smarter people, but, potentially people who don't necessarily have a great personality, right? And at this stage, I wasn't sitting in the banking floor, but I would walk in jokingly and say to the head of banking, I'd say, I'm going to a meeting. I just like someone young, like a, 2-year analyst or 3-year, because I used to enjoy just going to a meeting with someone like just bright. But I said, I want someone with a personality, please. But that's to answer your point, which is I think personality is a
So
massive EQ, self-awareness, those things I think are, in our job, I think, are much more important than whether or not your ATAR or whatever is 99 or 99.5.
hard to teach those things.
One of the things I try to do is to tell young people, unfortunately, most people are bad managers, right? They just are. And if you risk your career development on your manager, because sometimes you can't change your manager, then that's a risk. Now we've tried to hire Barrenjoey people who are not just great at their job, but good at caring and developing their people. But nobody's perfect. And so what I say to, a grad is to try and sit down with your manager and as many people that have worked with you and say, what are the 3 things that I could have done better? And try to make it easier for your manager or the people that you're working for to be just patting you on the back and saying, hey, you've done an amazing job and, oh, that's great. Well, there's no value in that. None at all. So the value comes from you asking, how could I have done that better?
Yeah.
So, and I would say that that's and if you do that early enough, you probably can start to modify, if people are giving you honest, direct feedback. But there is also...
Can be weaponized.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you ask for feedback?
It's a good question. Look, I guess I've got people around me who are able to give me direct feedback. I don't think I've got enough of those, to be honest. But I've always tried to have mentors and people who are outside of my world to be able to talk to and get a perspective. And I think they know that I'm open to changing my mind. I'm not somebody who's... Well, you know that. Some things I've said to you is like, there's no way. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later, I'm doing something else, right? So it's good to have friends or people that have known you for a long time to be able to sort of challenge you.
Something I have found to work for executives, if the most senior person in the room is asking the most junior people, but also just everybody for feedback, that is the stone that starts the ripple of a feedback culture. Because it's so surprising for the young person. And also what a lovely moment to be able to discuss feedback with someone. It's just, it is a great way to start it. Let's talk about Guy Fowler. Your partner for 35 years?
Yeah, since 96.
Yeah. So that's a very unusual, if not unique, relationship in the finance world. How did it form? How important is it?
Yeah. Well, the last part's easy. It's super important. It's sort of like I can't imagine doing what I do and have done without him. He is a brother. I've got 4 brothers, but I feel like I've got a 5th. There's enormous trust there. So I was at Potter Warburg and Guy was at SPC. Potter Warburg was the old school sort of, the broker that sort of had a long tradition, probably didn't know how to make money, but they knew how to look after clients. And SPC, I have always had this joke with Guy, was a bit fast. They knew how to make money. Now, obviously, Guy is not that type. And he's certainly he's no Gordon Gekko. He was doing stuff in real estate. And then he moved into ECM and became the pioneer of capital markets in Australia. And
you guys were in your 20s at this point, is that right?
I was 27.
Yeah.
Wow.
Young.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. But I mean, I was running banking, I think, when I was 32, and Guy was sort of basically my partner then. And Guy did a lot of work for the Westfields, and obviously they're a demanding client, and the Lowies sort of loved him. He actually did a lot of work for Macquarie Bank in terms of raising capital and coming up with the structure that's now used, the ARIO or the Jumbo, the accelerated rights issue. That was Guy's invention. People don't sort of remember that. And we pitched together like Telstra, and we did all these, and we just loved coming up with different ideas, right? He can solve a problem, right? And he can communicate that so much clearer than I can. And he has this joke that, I have 10 ideas that I come up with, like every sort of month or whatever, or every, 3 months. And one of them's good. And the other 9 are so his job is the filter of just getting rid of the other 9, right? And we challenge and we debate, and we'll have different perspectives, but we've never had a fight or a dispute or anything like that. We're just, it's not that important. You know what I mean? Like,
it sounds, if I was to diagnose, it sounds like there's a sort of not caring too much, but obviously caring a lot and doing your best. It's sort of like this sort of, it doesn't actually matter that much. That's the undertone of what I'm hearing. Is that right? And is that conscious?
If we decide we're going to do something, and we say we're going to do this, then we'll do it, right? And we will make it, as perfect and as great as we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's,
But where does that, because there's an element of looseness though before that. So where does that looseness come from, right? Like you've said, we're not curing cancer here.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter that much. We're just having fun, throwing out ideas, and then bang, something sticks. So,
well, if we make a commitment to a client, clearly we're going to deliver on that, right? So that part's serious, clearly, and then we have to go, okay, how do we solve this problem? We never want to do something which is wrong, so we don't want a company to go and do something, because there's full transparency here. You get found out, right? Because it's like you jammed. I mean, there's a recent transaction that's happened is that blind Freddie could have known was going to be a complete disaster, and yet the people around it didn't seem to care, right? So Guy and I always think, the lights are on. Okay, so the lights are on. People are looking at the work that you do because they generally, turn up in public. You don't always get them right, but you've got to make sure that you believe 100% that what that company is doing or how you're helping them is right. So that part's serious, because that's a
but do you think there's power in the looseness, the humor,
sure yeah,
because I don't think that's normal for people in banking.
No. People are generally a bit uptight and they take it pretty seriously.
Everything's serious. It feels like everything's
Yeah.
These are really, really important issues.
Yeah.
A few times, and obviously know this of you as a person, there's an element of, hey, no one's dying today. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
That's right. Yeah, that's a balance, I guess. It's a balance. But, when we're in the thick of it, like if we're acting for BHP and they're wanting to take over Oz Minerals, and we've been tasked with, what's the best way to do that, then we enjoy that problem solving. And we'll bounce that off, and then we'll debate it, and, we'll be quite extreme. And then we'll take something which, in that case, we took something to the client, and we knew that it was going to be something that was a bit challenging, but we enjoyed that debate, and I think the company appreciated the advice. And so we like the solving the problem part. That's the sort of the thing that we really, really like. And most of these things are that type of challenge. And it can be combative, right? Because you can have a hostile takeover. You're on one side or you're on the other. How do you win that? Right? So, and how do you do that so that client that you're working for, this wants to hire you again, or wants to basically say, I want to have that firm looking after me because I know what they did in that situation was clever, unique, and, they saved us some money.
Thanks for listening to this episode. It's a really important conversation that needs to happen, and you can find us anywhere where you get high-quality podcasts. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, make sure you check out the next episode.